Get around those obstacles and make room to create opportunities. You are listening to the Around the Way podcast. And now, your hosts, Kyle King and Kiana Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here with Nakisha Washington. How are you doing?
I am doing well.
Like, it's been too long. I haven't seen you in a while. COVID, I guess, drew us apart from each other a little bit.
Right.
We're all in the house. But before we get started, can you introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and how you're impacting lives?
I'm Nakisha Washington. I am a business owner. I own a transportation company called 612 Global. We are a fleet carrier and dispatching company. I'm the owner of Kelson Investments, which is a real estate investing company. And then I am also the joint owner of Black Gems Investment, and it is a group of 9 Black angel investors. Mm-hmm. I'm a mom of 2. I'm from Michigan. And what else did you ask me?
How are you changing lives?
How am I changing lives? I think the best way or the most impactful way that I change lives is by using myself as a sacrifice to just jump out there and sometimes uncharted waters, really not knowing what I'm doing, but to show that it can be done and just keep at it and you'll have support. So when people reach out to me or thank me or, say, hey, this is why I follow you, or this is how you've inspired me. It's always, hey, we saw you do something, or I saw you do something, and it inspired me to do more. So I think that's how I make an impact.
I love that. And you talked about all of this ownership.
Yes.
I love it. I love how we even got started. So why is ownership important to you?
For me, ownership is, it's something that I can pass on to my children. I spent so much time in corporate America, trying to climb the corporate ladder. And I realized I can't give this title, to my children. This salary will not last beyond this generation. The skills that I'm learning, while, they're great when applied in corporate America, but if I'm not utilizing these transferable skills to own something and to teach my children how to own, all of this is for nothing.
That's good. So when you think about everything that you said professionally, right? When you think about all of these transferable skills, when you think about the legacy that you're working to leave, why is it important to actually leave that legacy that you're working towards?
I feel like we're all put on this earth for a reason, and I know a lot of people spend their life searching for their purpose. And I believe I know what my purpose is, but even if I never fulfill that purpose, when I'm gone, I want some impact here. And my impact will be on my children and what they do and what they learn, and that they are better because I am their mother, and that they can make others better because of what I've taught them, not only from a financial and business standpoint, but also just being good people and doing business right and doing what's right by people, and not just to always gain for yourself. But I think that's most important for me, just really showing them and not just telling them.
Exactly. And what was one thing that was, I guess, shown to you that gave you the motivation or the inspiration to be that representation today?
I would say my mother. She was a single mother of 4, and just seeing her being knocked down almost at every turn at different points in our lives. And she didn't have the opportunity to lay in the bed and cover herself up and just say, I quit today, I'll start again tomorrow. So, just knowing that I come from that, and it's not that she had to tell me stories or, these aren't from generations down. I lived that with her. Mm-hmm. And now, I just look at her as Superwoman. And I think sometimes when people have these heroes or people that you see on social media, it's because, they're a boss chick or they make millions or they do this or do that. But for me, the biggest thing is tenacity. And seeing that in my mom, I know that it is in me. And so that has been my biggest inspiration to do anything and everything that I'm doing.
You have 2 little ones, and you're an amazing mother. If you could only leave them one message or one piece of advice, what would that be?
I hate to steal from Nike, but just do it. even now, I give them the freedom to try different things. And of course, I guide them and I lead them, but I want them to have the experience that, hey, I just jumped out and I tried it and it wasn't for me. Or I jumped out and it worked. I never want them to sit back and say, what if I had done this? Where would I be now? Or to live with regret. So I just tell them to live fearlessly. We will figure it out if you fumble.
I love that. What do you think?
I was thinking, I don't want to spoil it depending on where this episode comes, but we had an interview with someone else at some point, and they made a statement that I thought was interesting, that essentially you have basically like role models or inspirations for different things in different seasons. I know you said your mom has been a really large influence in your life. For the season that you're in right now, with whatever things you're facing right now, who or what is serving as your inspiration for what you're experiencing right now?
I would say my younger brother. There are 4 of us. I'm the oldest and he's the youngest. And I think a lot of times we let ego get in our way of thinking that we can't learn or even aspire to be like someone who's younger than us. Especially, he's going to kill me for this, somebody who you helped raise. Let me tell it. But yeah, so he jumped out. He's an engineer. And, by all means, it's like, oh, you go to college, you become an engineer, you make money, and that's just what you do. But very quickly, he's like, I want to do something else. So he started investing in real estate and bought a couple properties and flipped them. And then he has a couple rental properties. And then one day he said, you know what, I want to start a trucking company. And he just did. And every time, like, we talk about something, within like a couple weeks, like, he's done it.
He's an executor.
Yeah, and I'm like, he just lives so fearlessly. He's so bold. Again, we come from the same mom. I'm like, somebody who's so closely connected to me. Like, we all had that in us, and you're doing it. And you're jumping out there, first kind of, leading the way. And so I really am inspired by him in this season because, even through COVID, he'll stay up on YouTube and learn something, make calls, and the next thing you know, he's doing it. And I admire that in anybody.
Is there anything particular that you're wanting or thinking or considering jumping into, but you just haven't necessarily made the move yet?
I have not purchased more trucks. Right now we own 1 semi. And I'm like, okay, I want to own 5. Then I'm like, I don't want to own assets. It's about, so that's something that I haven't jumped into. I want to expand, but I'm being careful about what scaling looks like for us without piling on a lot of liabilities when we can go about it a different way. So I don't even know if that's something I necessarily want to do. Growing is something that I want to do. I just haven't jumped into it because I haven't figured out what it looks like.
One thing I wrote down as you were kind of talking about like difference, like the assets versus the liabilities, is a lot of times in our lives we believe that certain things are assets, so we take a risk. And lo and behold, in the future, as things come to fruition, it serves as really a liability. Where sometimes in your life where you believed that certain people, certain situations, certain opportunities were going to be assets where you were going to receive a return on investment, but when everything unfolded, it really was a liability and cost you something?
Taking a role at a company that I thought would be my dream role. My background in corporate is in learning and development, so I've always been training, instructional design. I was a blogger in a former life, so I love, fashion and thrifting and that type of thing. So this role, it was a corporate role, but it encompassed like the fashion piece of it and, my professional background in learning and development. And then the title, the salary, like everything just lined up. And I remember writing about it in my journal at the time, and I was like, when things are going down, I want to remember this day, that I was hired at this job in this position, and I was just super duper excited, and I threw everything in it. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Like my daughter, who's 6, I think she was 3 or 4 at the time, that job, I slept for, probably over a course of 6 months, I probably slept 3 hours a night. Probably. And I remember passing out one Saturday. I was still working. I passed out and I woke up to a scream. And it was Carson, again, who was 3 or 4 at the time. she had tried to iron some of her baby doll's clothes, and she ended up with a 3rd-degree burn on her hand because I was passed out from work. And it was at that moment I realized it's not worth it.
Wow.
At the end of the day, it's not worth it. So now she still has a scar. It's healed on her hand. But every time, like, I look at that on her hand, I'm like, this is what I sacrificed for. What? A job? A title? To feel like I've made it in corporate America, or I've made it in a sense. But if you make it here and you have to sacrifice everything over here, what was it really worth it? And that was a lesson that I had to learn the hard way, because I don't think that had anybody told me before taking that role, Keisha, this isn't for you. You're going to be over your head. You're going to have to sacrifice too much. It's not worth it. I would have been like, y'all hating. This is for me. This is perfect because it looked perfect on paper. So that was something that I had to bump my head and do. So I don't regret doing it because I would probably still be in corporate now, like chasing whatever it was. But that scar on her hand is my reminder.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. And, it's interesting because Carter, when he was... This is probably like 2 years ago. He was running around the house and ended up running into the side of the table in my living room. It wasn't funny back then. And his whole left eye was shut. And it was the scariest feeling. I remember calling. I was working in the school at the time. So one of the parents to one of my students was a nurse. So I called her, and then I was like, look, like, I'm going to send you pictures, what should I do? And then she said, you should still take him to the hospital and everything. And so ended up taking him to the hospital. But my thought at the time was, I don't want people to think like I beat my kid or any crazy story. But at that time when he was running, I was working. Right. So, and it was interesting because his eye was literally shut for probably 3-4 days.
And he's
probably
so light, so
he's light skinned, so probably a week. And you saw even when it healed, it was still a major bruise. And obviously, years later, he's back solid now. But I was like, if I would have just focused on him running, would that have happened? I blame myself, and it was really frustrating. But I think that scar over a period of time really helped me recalibrate a lot of different things. So what scar has healed in your life that you had to go through that situation that allowed you to be the woman that you are today?
I think the biggest scar that I've had was not finishing college. I started at Tennessee State in Nashville, had a ball, but didn't graduate. And for financial reasons. And so my family had moved to Charlotte. And so when I moved here, I guess because there are so many colleges, I felt like everybody had not only a degree, but multiple degrees. And I was like 22 at the time. Like, people my age had master's degrees. Wow. So I just felt like I was like at the bottom of the barrel. And I'm like, I want to build a career. I want to go into training. But if all of these people are my competition, like, who am I? Where am I? So once I got a training role, or even I would volunteer or I would speak on different panels and they would ask for a bio, I would always feel insecure because I didn't have a degree. And because of that, I would be in school at certain points. Like, I went to Strayer or would just enroll in online programs just to be in school. One, I wasn't interested at that point. Two, I could barely afford it. Being a single mom and trying to work and trying to, work my way up the ladder, it was just overwhelming.
Exactly.
And I got to a point where I'm like, wait a minute, I have the know-how, I have the credibility, I have the resources, for these roles that I want and these places that I want to be in. That scar for me, I felt like made me stronger because I don't think I would have worked as hard had I not felt like I was behind everybody. I feel like personally, if I had a college degree, I would probably have felt entitled. I earned my degree. Now you owe me this role. And then because I wouldn't have worked as hard, I probably wouldn't have gotten the roles. And then I would have been bitter. So me not having a degree was a scar, but a scar that needed to happen for me to get to where I am today.
That's good. That's good.
That's interesting.
I love how you brought that together as well, because I think there's a lot of people that feel that way now, that maybe they didn't go the traditional educational route. Maybe They do feel insecure when they're given kind of their elevator pitch, or, they're at networking events and they feel like they're the weakest link, but they really have so much value to give. So what would be your advice or your words to those people that kind of do feel like they're not enough?
Get out there, and whatever it is that you want to do, start doing it. And you will find people who are experts in that field who will help you. People help people who help themselves. When you go to say, hey, I want to be a podcaster, I want to be a speaker, I want to do whatever it is that you're doing. And people who are doing the things that you want to do are usually very busy, so they don't have time to chase your dream for you and then pull you along, and then you celebrate when the goal is reached. I have not run into anyone who, well, yes, I have. That's another day for another story. But I have, in any field, any industry, anything that I've done, I've always found someone who saw me heads down. Usually I didn't seek these people out. They saw me heads down working, and they were like, here, let me help. Here are resources. So just start. Don't sit back and wait till you have everything perfect. Don't feel like you don't have the credentials or the experience. Because, again, I own a trucking company, and before a couple months ago, if I saw a semi on the road, like, I'm not the best driver. I would get scared and, like, run away from it. So, a person like me who, got dings on my car now because I'm not the best driver, owns a semi-truck, like, you literally can do anything, and there will be people who will put you in the right positions or arm you with the right information to push you forward.
I think there's a challenge, though, a lot of times when people get information or have access to information because they don't know how to gracefully or gratefully receive it, right? Or receive help. Like, I don't need help. What's your experience or your words to that person that isn't used to getting help or has this mindset that I don't really need help, I got it?
I would say always be inquisitive. Like, I'm the person that's like a 5-year-old kid. Like, why? Well, why? What happens next? And then what? And when you ask questions, you will find out that there is so much that you don't know. And it will become overwhelming trying to do everything yourself. So I would say continue to ask questions, and those things that you are strong in, do those things and do those things well. And don't be afraid to delegate or ask for help on the things that you need help on. And it's just really being self-aware. Like me, I'm big picture. I can get people excited. I can bring people on board. I can see the beginning to the end. But execution, the day-to-day, that's not my ministry. And I know that. So knowing that will save you time, money, and your reputation. You will learn hard lessons trying to do everything yourself.
I love that. What are your thoughts?
I guess I have one more question, and then I guess we can switch it up. So you talked about basically coming to the realization that balance is important in your life, in terms of business and in your family and things like that. What is a system that you currently have in place that allows you to be better balanced as a mom?
I wish I had a system like I wake up at 3 o'clock and I do my grind. But I just take it day by day. And there might be days like, today I've had 2 interviews and, I'm pulling Carson with me and I'm like, you with me today. We working, this is what we're doing. And I don't feel guilty about it. I know a lot of people have, parent guilt and like, oh my God, she should be outside playing. And I'm like, no, she needs to speak, when we go to the store and I'm able to buy her the things that she wants, or I'm able to put her in a certain camp or whatever, she needs to see the work that goes behind it. So I'm never apologetic about the time that I spend on the business, because the kids, one, they're learning, 2, I spend quality time. And then, when there are days with them, a couple of weeks ago, we went up to the little mini cabins in Asheboro, and I didn't even take the work phone with me. And I'm like, I'm not curing cancer, I'm not saving lives, so if I don't answer a couple phone calls, everything will be okay. And I have a partner as well. And then I set boundaries, with customers and clients. They know when I'm not available. So yeah, and when I am present, I'm very present, and I do good work. So people are more willing to, what, she's off, I'm fine.
I have one more question actually. So okay, I'm formulating in my head as I'm asking it, so bear with me. So with you being a very strong woman, and a businesswoman at that, do you ever think or worry that as you're the independent, like strong woman, like the Black woman, are you ever concerned that your daughter, in watching you beat all of that, like the superwoman type, that she will have trouble accepting help because she maybe will perceive her mom as every woman?
No, and it's funny. My boyfriend is like a great chef level cook, and not only can he cook well, he loves to cook. Me, if I never saw a kitchen again, I would be. I do cook, but it's just not something that I enjoy. So one day he was teaching her to cook something, and she said, one day I'm going to grow up and I'm going to get a husband, and he's going to cook for me, so I don't need to learn how to cook. And I was like, Carson, we'll have a talk about that. But the fact that she realized she doesn't have to do everything.
Good.
Yeah. I don't call myself like a boss chick or a strong woman. I'm very much submissive in my relationship, and I think that people sometimes think that I am assertive or aggressive simply because I stand up for myself. And a lot of times people are like, it's okay. Like with being late, like I don't play when it comes to late. I don't care who you are. And if you show up late, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's okay. And I feel like most people, do that and see that and feel that. And, I ask for what I want, even if you might think it's ridiculous. If I ask you, for $1 million investment,
you
with
never
a straight
know.
face, if the answer is no, the answer is no. And I'm fine. And so I think people sometimes confuse, being strong and assertive or like an independent woman with really just being very matter of fact. But yeah, I'm not. They see the softer side of me, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. We're going to go on a commercial.
Welcome back. We are still here with Nakisha Washington, and we are about to switch it up per usual. So, in the middle of the table, you'll notice a red box. Yes. In that box are some questions. If you could get the box, pick out one question, read the question, and answer the question.
Oh, Lord. What are 3 big decisions that you believe you'll have to make before the end of 2021? So our house will be on the market on Friday. Will be on the market on Friday. So one of the big decisions is how we are going to use the profit. Because I know a lot of us have been guilty of this too. We like to have the big house or the nice car, the material things that you can see. And especially if you're able to afford it. So a decision that I'm making is to not use any of the profit toward the new house to get the big fancy house that we could have, and to use that for an investment in one of my businesses or another business. So that is a really big decision. Another big decision that I'm going to have to make is, we kind of talked about this, how to scale the business. What does that look like? Because, it's cute on Instagram to say, oh, I'm a fleet owner and I have 10 trucks, but you have 10 assets with a lot of overhead. And at the end of the day, that, ain't cute. So figuring out what that looks like. And number 3, another decision that I'll have to make this year. I think those are my 2, because those are huge. Yeah, the house and the business. And personally, maybe where to go for a vacation once we're finally
after COVID.
Yes.
I love that. I think, it's interesting because a lot of people, they base their but they base a lot of their decisions based upon their businesses, especially as entrepreneurs like we are as well. And often when we ask these questions, there may be something that we hadn't reflected on personally that we needed to do, or whether it be a conversation, whether it be something that we needed to learn, whether it be something that we just needed to do or advance us. What is one thing personally that if you implemented it, it would really be able to drastically create a scalability in your life?
Being more patient. I think that some things you need to sit on a little bit longer before you rush to make a decision. And I always, say, I'm very decisive and I'm able to make quick decisions. But it's not always based on me just being logical. It's because I'm fast-paced and I'm very impatient.
Exactly.
So I think that if I know that I'm self-aware, but if I implement something where I'm like, before I decide to do something, before I say yes or no, let me wait 48 hours, or let me, these 3 people, are my personal board of directors when it comes to business or when it comes to, relationships or whatever it is, and talk to them, really consult with them and let it sink in. I think that, like, my personal life would probably be, like, beyond if I could just overcome being impatient.
Talk to me a little bit about your board of directors. Like, talk to me about that concept and the importance of being able to have those people in your life.
The board of directors for me, because not everyone I don't trust everyone to give me advice on everything. But I also look for people who have different perspectives and, not disagreeing just to say I'm disagreeing. And it could be, age. They have more life experience. Or they're younger, and maybe they know about things that I'm not even privy to that might impact my decisions.
Exactly.
I also look at parents, people who are who have been in relationships or have relationships similar to what I have. I also always like to have a person who does not look like me. Just, again, to give that perspective from the outside. I'm thinking of it from my experience, the black female experience. But as a older white man or, a younger, Asian young lady, how are you thinking about this? What could this look like? Or even when you're pushing something out, how could this be perceived by others? Even if I have, the best intentions, how could this be perceived? So as I'm thinking, and I don't have, a standing board. Whatever it is that I'm working on, I'm like, you know what, let me call her, let me call him, let me call this person. And so they're kind of unofficial. They don't know they're my board. But it's for this, these are the people that I need to talk to. And sometimes it's not always the people who are super supportive. Have you thought about this? Or that might be ridiculous. And, sometimes I just need to hear that regardless of what I go with.
When you think about these people, though, I think that a lot of people, even a lot of people listening to this, would want some type of strategy on how to go about finding those people or locating them. And then once they locate them, how to actually create them or have these people accessible to them. Could you talk more about your process?
Yeah, so I find quality. I'm very observant. So I find qualities about different people that I'm drawn to. There was a lady that I used to work with. She was just super duper likable. And I found that she didn't bend and flex depending on who she was talking to. She was always 1,000% herself. I'm like, how are you so authentic and so likable? And I'm like, she might be helpful, in sales and marketing, in something that I'm doing. Or, she might be able to help me with networking or breaking into a new industry or something like that. So I kind of keep those things, back of mind. Even people who I don't like as much, there was a guy who I worked with in a past job. But even if he was the only person in the room who had his standpoint, he would stand on it if he believed it. Even though we went back and forth several times, I just admired that quality in him. And it wasn't like that he was, hard-headed or anything. He would have facts behind it. And I'm like, even though, I can be looked at as strong or whatever, there are times where I'm like, if everybody is saying this, maybe I do need to.
Exactly.
And he never really faltered. So I stay connected on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on social media. Some people, I'll have their number, and I always ask for people's time because a lot of times I'll get a text like, "Hey, girl, I was thinking about this. What do you think? And how do I get my business credit?" And I'm like,
friend,
whoa.
slow down.
So, I'll reach out and I'll say, "Hey, do you have time for coffee?" Or, send them a meme. So I just stay in contact with people, and I never want to be that person. I'm only reaching out when I need something from you.
Exactly.
Even if it's just an article. One guy I know, he really liked motorcycles. So I saw something about motorcycles, and I sent it to him, and we kind of went back and forth a couple times. So just staying in contact, and it doesn't even have to be frequent. I say like once a quarter. And then when you do reach out because you have those questions or you need their advice, let them know. Not, hey, want to meet for coffee? And then you pull up with a 30-page business plan that you want them to look over. It's like, hey, I'm considering, going into investing. And I know that I'll have to talk to a lot of owners and other investors. And, I'm more of an introvert. And I really love the way you're able to connect with people. So I was wondering if I could treat you to coffee and, I can share some of the strategies that I have and you kind of give me your feedback. Mm-hmm. And again, I never go to people to say, hey, can you do this for me? Mm-hmm. It's always, hey, here's what I've done. I don't know if this is right, but can you look over it? Like, you give people something, because nobody wants, on top of their lives and their businesses, to do something for you. So what they're doing is giving you the feedback. So at least have something for them to look at and give you feedback on. Not just, I want help in communicating. Like, what does that even mean?
That's an interesting perspective, because it's important for people, and anybody that's listening, we want you to catch this. It's important for people to actually do the work before they seek mentorship, right? Because I believe that great mentorship is being able to take what you've already done and be able to accelerate it, right? Advance it, continue to coach you on, hey, this wasn't working, so try it this way, or reach out to this person. So I think that's a very, enlightened perspective that I just gained. Because I think a lot of times when I go to people, I already have something. And I just need advice. I don't even really want you to do it for me. I just need your perspective and the best way maybe of doing it moving forward. When you think about this perspective that you have, how did you gain that perspective, or what experience in your life provided you with this perspective?
Oh, I got slapped on the head and bumped my head in the wall at the same time. But luckily there was a black woman who looked out for me. I started back in the day at Wachovia working in the call center, and I came up with the bright idea that I'm going to look up everyone in the directory with a black sounding name and a VP title or higher, and I'm going to send them an email and ask them to be my mentor.
Wow.
Straight like that.
Did it work?
So, I got a lot of no responses, but there was one lady who reached out, and she was like, baby girl, let's meet. Because I want to talk to you. And so we met for lunch, and she was just like, listen, you're going about this the wrong way. This isn't it. You aren't bringing any value. You have not built any relationship. You haven't done anything. You're really saying, use your hard work, your network, your title to get me a job just because I want it. Yeah. Like you said, make me like you just because I want it. She said, what have you done? What can you point them to that you've done? You say you want to be a trainer and get into learning and development. Have you created any content, even if it's just, not for work, but maybe in volunteering?
That's good.
You want to be a trainer. Have you spoken anywhere? Do you have any video? Or do you have anything? Or are you just saying, I want to be a trainer, make me one? So she said, don't ever, 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 ever do this again. She said, no, people probably won't be as nice, as I am. And so she became a mentor to me. But it's also important that you don't choose one mentor to be your everything. One, because, we all possess different skills, but two, that's overwhelming for someone. So she really helped me on finding creative ways to build my skill set outside of corporate America to get the experience for corporate America. Because again, I was working in a call center. So how do you get the experience speaking, writing content, training people? So I started volunteering at Goodwill and documenting it and doing it that way. So I used that to get a job at Wells Fargo in training. But without that crazy email from her to her, I don't know what I would be doing.
That's good.
That's so interesting.
That's a very interesting perspective. I think I did that too when I was in college. Actually, I reached out to a lot of people, but it's interesting because I did do the work, because I came at it from the perspective of that I'm an athlete, I'm this type of student, I have these types of internships, I need you to mentor me. So it was a little bit different. I kind of backed it with, some background.
I got a question for both of y'all.
For sure.
So I didn't grow up knowing about mentorship. So it's always interesting to me when you talk about it,
Yeah.
especially knowing about it in college, like that wasn't a thing like that I was taught in my household. Like, where did y'all learn the importance of that?
For me, I heard mentor like mentioned in college, but I was so busy partying, I didn't have time for a mentor. And then at work, like we had like mentorship programs, like you can get into this program. But then for me, the programs weren't personal enough. I'm like, oh, you get access to this type. Like, let me try to figure out so I can have this person one-on-one with me. And then as I got different mentors, they were like, don't rely on one person to be your everything. Like, and this is how you approach mentors. And, mentorship, should be twofold. You're giving that person something as well. Whether, it's insight to, if you guys are in different industries. One of my mentors, like, technology was just like not her thing. Brilliant lady, but technology wasn't her thing. I recognized that. So, I would help her with certain things. So although, she was senior to me in age, career, all of that or whatever, there was something that I was able to help her with.
Mm-hmm. I think my perspective was different. So one, my father was always kind of like my coach. So I was an athlete growing up. So me being able to see how he served as the coach and mentor for other kids, that's one perspective. Two, my mom, she had mentors at work to be able to really accelerate her career. And then three, as an athlete, especially once I got to middle school and high school, we had to mentor other kids. Okay. So we had to look out for the youngins.
So that concept wasn't foreign.
Yeah, it wasn't foreign at all.
Did your father consider himself a mentor?
Yeah, to kids, and we would always have like kids living with us, and he was like that parent, So it was always one of those things, and that's why I always talk about like I got that service mindset from Pops, but I got the strategic or being able to really move through corporate America. And networking I got from my mother. Service I got from my dad. So I'm now just forging those together. So I had the representation at home. And a lot of people ask me that, interestingly, and I never really thought about that until just now. Like,
I don't think that's common in
I always ask.
households. Like we didn't talk about mentorship. Like that wasn't a conversation.
Yeah, we always talked about it.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it at home.
Yeah, I didn't talk about that at home.
Yeah. I guess I have one last question for you, because you wear a lot of hats. Like you have multiple businesses. You have children. You have, obviously you take care of yourself as well. Continue to do things within the community, and you're an all around. You're a whole person, which is super dope. Definitely an inspiration. And definitely somebody that embodies resilience, perseverance, and just that freaking, like you said earlier, like just do it. My question, if this was our last conversation, what would be the one nugget that you would leave us with that either you've heard before, either something that you live your life by, or something that you've always been burning to say that you need to get out?
It's okay to be afraid. A lot of times, like, and I think I've even said it in different interviews, like to do things fearlessly. And that's how I would like go into things. And then as I got older, I'm like, wait a minute, like, I'm scared. I've never done this before, or this is a large amount of money, and if this don't work, I don't know how I'm gonna eat. And I think that sometimes we see people like live life boldly and live life on the edge. And if you have a little fear, you feel like you're not like everybody else, or you can't do it, or you need to wait until you're in a place where you can do things fearlessly. And so I say now, just go at it afraid. If you're not afraid, it's not big enough, and you're not pushing yourself, and you're not challenging yourself. So it is okay to be afraid. I think that fear should kind of be your nudge that you are doing it right. So don't be there's value in being afraid.
There's value in being afraid. Continue to do it scared, and just recognize that it's okay to be scared. Continue to just do something. Impact the world, impact yourself. Don't forget about yourself. Don't forget about yourself in the process of being able to help other people. Create the value before you ask for the mentorship. Be the embodiment of what your vision says, but let your activity follow. This is Around the Way podcast, and we are here with Nakisha Washington, and we'll see you guys.